Welcome to We're Gonna Run It with Joe Lisi and Terry Bowden.
You're listening to We're Gonna Run It.
What's your game plan?
Can they run, but will they run? If you want to run the ball, you got to give it to a guy that's a running back.
Gutless. We're gonna run it.
We're gonna play blue collar. Enjoy it. I said it. Have a little heart and have some stones.
We're gonna run it.
If you want to throw an RPO, you got to run first, pass second. That's why it's not called a PRO. It's an RPO. You got to start with a running game that puts people on their heel.
Take a look at my algo. His algo is used with all data from last year. You're so smart, you're stupid.
We're gonna run it.
And the people that believe that talking head are even stupider than what I thought. I said it.
If you want to run the ball, you got to give it to a guy that's a running back.
You got no shot to get back into the series. No shot. I said it. What's your game plan?
We're gonna run it.
We are going to run it straight into week number 10 of the college football season. Joe Lisi and former National Coach of the Year Terry Bowden break down all the top 25 battles entering Saturday. Coach, a lot of conference odds on the line, national championship odds, obviously the Heisman Trophy. Just give me your thoughts about where we are in this point in the season for conferences like the ACC, the SEC. It's basically a coin flip for the Big Ten. Right now, it's two teams, Indiana and Ohio State, basically on a collision course.
I mean, they're the ones that kind of stand out because the one thing you're not seeing in today's game that we saw 5 or 10 years ago is the team that won 7 or 8 by blowout. You know, that was just the way it used to be. You had several teams that were just way above. Now, Indiana is doing that a little bit. Ohio State, not quite as much, but they're kind of there, and that's why they still stand out. But I thought it would be about, contenders versus pretenders. But I think we're past that now to we're down to somebody can't lose. It's like, okay, everybody's pretty good. Anybody can beat anybody. But who's going to win head-to-head, whether it be a one-point game and make it to their conference championship or maybe more importantly to that 12-team college football playoff?
It is. It's Separation Saturday, especially in the SEC. You could even say it's in the ACC with the marquee battle, Miami and SMU. Both teams right now have one loss in the conference. Whichever loses on Saturday potentially could be on the outside looking in for a conference championship and, more importantly, a college football playoff appearance. We'll see exactly how it breaks down a little bit later in the show, and we'll give our picks for all the top 25 battles that we're going to cover in about 5 minutes or less than that. We're going to be joined by former defensive line coach, Mr. LSU, as Coach Bowden talks about him. I mean, Pete Jenkins, one of the best defensive line coaches and defensive minds in all of college football, join us. We'll get his take about the situation down in Baton Rouge. He did coach under Brian Kelly back in 2023. That was Brian Kelly's second year in Death Valley. We'll see if they could step up and potentially find his replacement. I don't know if you've been watching, Coach, but there's been a lot of turmoil potentially with Governor Landry coming involved in his statements, Woodward, and that situation, saying that he didn't, hire, he hired Jimbo with the buyout with Kelly. And then former players are pushing back saying, well, he got Mulkey and he got the baseball coach, and all of a sudden he's not that bad. What do you make of that situation now unfolding down in Baton Rouge?
I would just say that anybody that hasn't been to Louisiana or lived in Louisiana doesn't understand Louisiana. There's politics and there's Louisiana politics, and the governor doesn't care one bit if he lets everybody know, say, that's his university, that's his LSU. He isn't going to let somebody else mess it up. And I'll be quite frankly, I don't know the athletic director personally, but if you fail 2 times at the level that he failed in hiring a coach that could be successful, and it cost 2 universities $125 million, I think if I was the governor, and the governor, and you got to understand, the governor is probably, whether he's the head of the trustees or head of the school system, he's the guy who has the ultimate control over all the universities in the state. And when I was hired for coaches, like at Auburn, I didn't get hired by an AD. I got hired by a search committee, and the AD was a part of that. And I think the governor's a little bit true in that, if we're going to pay that much money or that kind of dollars for a head coach, we need 5 guys to raise their hands. So we think it's that guy. That's the guy we want. Because when it messes up, it messes up bad.
It does. And if we're talking just fiscal policy,
Right.
forget the politics, forget the left, the right. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fiscal responsibility for the state as it relates to LSU in this situation. He does have a point to a degree because Mulkey and the baseball coach and maybe the soccer coach, and as good as these coaches are and as great as they are bringing championships,
Right.
the buyout to make them walk is much less than obviously Kelly and
Right.
Jimbo at Texas A&M. We're talking over $120 million for a buyout. That's ridiculous if you think about it, especially when you look to save money on certain levels for education. I think he does have a point in that capacity.
I think we can't survive at the rate we're going.
Right.
The extreme amounts of money in NIL, in revenue sharing, in buyouts, and big contracts for coaches. We can't do all these things in most universities who are supposed to be good stewards of of not just tax dollars, but boosters and donors and contributors. I think I saw several of the podcasts that the governor did or interviews, and he was right on that we've got to somehow get a handle on this because it's hard to explain to other people why you're paying $50 million for somebody not to coach. And that's
Right.
what we are right now. And then I thought the other interesting thing, and I don't know, is that he says, you know what, half these guys got the same agent.
Yeah, Jimmy Sexton, right?
I said, he's the guy that gets you the contract, and he's the guy that makes money when you get bought out of the contract, and he also makes money when he gets you that other job, and he's handling all these guys are being handled by the same guy, and it just and the governor said it just doesn't seem right,
Right.
It's kind of the way it is. Jimmy Sexton, I mean, who can blame him? What an incredible job he has to become what he has. He's a coach maker, going back to Nick Saban and maybe before that.
Right.
He's a deal maker in the profession of college football.
And it's almost like Boris with baseball, right?
Yeah.
Really transforming these monumental contracts and monumental buyouts and long-term deals. And that's the way we have created college football, good, bad, or ugly. We're here. And it's not going anywhere because expansion potentially is on the horizon. And if you could see, and I've said this to you time and time again, is that Saban created this. The success immediately that he had with Alabama wasn't in year one,
right.
But it was after that where he brought not one, not two, not three, 4, 5, 6 national championships to Tuscaloosa. Everybody wants that. And there really is now, but and I'll get your take. Everybody, like Boston College, believes they can win a national championship. Baylor believes they can win a national championship. Memphis believes they can win a national. And that is the culture that we have now with just unrealistic fan bases that think that, hey, well, if Indiana could do it now, we all can do it. We'll see. And Kurt has done a fantastic job with the momentum that he's built. Let's see if Indiana 5 or 10 years down the road is still on the same path and he's winning multiple Big Ten championships.
And I don't want to get off the point, but I could you imagine if Kurt Cignetti had come in and Bobby Knight was still the head basketball coach? How does that doesn't work? I mean, Bear Bryant and Adolph Rupp in the old Kentucky days, Duke, a lot of the reasons people didn't care about football was because they were so dominant in basketball. That's a side issue, but it's still, we don't know where it's all going now. And our guest, Pete Jenkins, has been around coaching for 50 years and has worked with with so many of these great coaches, including
absolutely
me.
And we'll get Pete's take about just what his feelings are about the situation in Death Valley. They have an off week. Frank Wilson has taken over the responsibilities. Frank, a longtime running back coach and just longtime coach with the program on and off, is there. And again, I don't know if you saw some of the B-roll this week, but he invited some of the former players in. I think, Jake Hester was there and Matt Flynn, former quarterback and running back for the Bayou Bengals. I don't know if you saw Whitworth that came out and said he offered his help with Brian Kelly, and it was sort of like pushed to the side. I wonder though too, Coach. Like now, everybody's piling on, right? Like where was
Oh, sure.
Whitworth? And I love Whitworth; he's great, right? One of the best offensive linemen, future Hall of Famer. But where was he a year ago? Brian Kelly was there 4 years, and we never heard a stint. Whit was doing NFL. Now all of a sudden, now he's piling on in the situation with Brian Kelly.
Well, former players and lettermen, if you're a coach at a school with a little tradition, you better handle that situation very carefully, because not only are they critically important to your team,
Absolutely.
that you bring them in and you make them involved, but they usually are the guys that think they know more than anybody else about football, and they're the first people to say he doesn't do it like we used to do it. He doesn't do it the way it's supposed to be done, and they have a sense of a respect and credibility. They have street cred at their school,
Right.
And quite often they're no different than anybody else. Football was always tougher, bigger, badder when we played.
Right, absolutely.
And you gotta wade through that. But the bottom line is, wherever you go, you better get a hold of those lettermen and former players and keep them close to you, because they can be your worst enemy if things go south.
No, absolutely. And again, I think also is that when you see some of these head coaches that don't embrace the culture to a degree, right? Like,
right.
Meaning like, you read some, the former players aren't allowed on the sideline. Listen, if I'm a coach of a major university like Florida, Georgia, Bama, LSU, they could all come back. They're all welcome. They're part of the family. You cannot segregate the former players and say, well, that was then, this is now. You're never going to get ahead. It doesn't help recruiting, right? I mean, it's a no-win situation when you take that mindset. It's, embrace them, come back. You can listen to what they have to say. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. You could still do it your way. At least you could invite them in so they feel wanted, because at the end of the day, they can hurt you more than they can help you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's get Pete.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ask him because he's so close to the situation.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Pete to join the studio right now. We'll wait till he comes in, and then when he comes in, we'll get him involved. I do want to just say a couple of factors about some of the top games that you and I will talk about.
All right.
Clemson definitely backs against the wall. It's an under-the-radar game. It's a tight spread. You and I talked about it in the ACC breakdown today. Just to be Clemson and be so dominant in Death Valley, and knowing that it's Duke coming to your town, you might not even have the best quarterback in this matchup, with Klubnik potentially coming back, or if it's Vizina going up against Mensa. What do you feel the mindset is of Dabo here? Because, again, this is a team that beat your ass 2 years ago, week number 1, as a 12.5-point favorite on the road. Clemson was favorite week 1. It ruined their whole season in Durham.
Well, I think I don't have to speak for Dabo, but in situations like this, it's all about the how you motivate your team, how you get them inspired and ready to play this game. How do you push them as much as you can push them without punishing them for playing hard and not winning? Heck, it could be a coach's fault. It could be that the other team played beyond where they've ever played, and it is football. The ball is not round, it's oblong, and it bounces funny. And so I think the main thing is to continue to create that positive feeling. I don't think you make it gloomy, because I guarantee it, when you're at a program like Clemson and they've won so much, and all of a sudden the fans, the people in the classroom, the students, the faculty, the coaches, the player, everything is negative on the outside. It takes it takes great experience, right? And great poise for a head coach to know how to handle that and navigate that through the rough waters to get them to play their best. Because football and sports in general is a game of attitude. It's a game of belief in yourself. And going into a game with the right mindset. I've always said the best way you can be is to think you're going to win, think that good things are going to happen. And that's what Dabo Swinney is going through right now. And he's coached a long time. People don't realize that they haven't followed him. When he first got there, he had to build the program up. I know my brother Tommy was the head coach before Dabo. Now, Tommy was there 10 years and never had a losing season, but they could never get over the hump. And of course, they would not build any facilities back then because, of course, first thing that Dabo did was say, we got to quit kidding ourselves. If we're going to compete, we've got to have those facilities. Well, now he's going through those difficult times of rebuilding it back again. And so I think that's something that all these coaches will go through. And he also, their school has to deal with the fact that, and I think they do love him there. He has been the real culture that he has and they have, but they also have a huge buyout. It's almost like y'all don't want to fire him. His buyout is at that $50+ million too.
Right. And think about it. I think when you think Penn State, you think LSU, you think Florida, Clemson used to be looked at as one, if that job ever came open, where, there were rumors that Dabo would take over for Nick when he retired, right? It's like, is it as appealing as it was maybe just a year and a half ago, that job? I'm just saying, if it does go completely off the rails, I don't know. I think it is. And obviously with the 2 natties that he got over the past 7 seasons, it matters, but it sort of lost its luster when you think about, well, you got 8 home losses now. Prior to 2024, you only had 3 over a 9-year period. Teams are coming to your place and knocking you around, and you're not even getting now first-round talent. I don't think there's one player that's going to be drafted out of this class in the first round from Clemson. And if we go back 5-6 years ago, that certainly wasn't the case on the defensive side of the ball.
I would be shocked if he left, if he were to be interested in leaving. I could be entirely wrong, but they are at where they are. But because he was a generational type of coach at Clemson. He changed everything about where Clemson was. Just a good, solid program that might play for a championship every now and then. And he had them in the top 4 every year for about 6 years or 8 years. And I think if he had to leave, he would feel like he failed. It went bad.
He didn't finish the job, right?
Yes. And to be honest with you, I was an analyst for him just a few years ago for 2 years. They've got everything facility wise that Alabama has. They have done everything to have a top program, and I guarantee they're probably playing as much. They're paying as much NIL. They may be playing it to players on their team more than others. And that's another subject, maybe for another day, is that Dabo, because he is old school, he wanted to win the old-fashioned way with culture, with guys that buy into the program and get developed. And right now you have to abandon some of that, not all of it. You've got to abandon some of that and take immediate help from a portal transfer, just like a free agent in the NFL. You can't maintain top of the league until you can pull 1 or 2 guys that are great players from another team, and maybe because you can't afford all of them, you can only afford some of them.
Right.
I think that's where Dabo. He'll be right there building that program, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go from one Tiger, Coach, and we'll go back to another Tiger, and you like to call him Mr. LSU. So we bring in Pete Jenkins. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Now, one of the best defensive line coaches. You spent over 20 years throughout Baton Rouge. You last coached the Tigers back in 2023. Coach and I have talked about the situation with Brian Kelly. I'm a little bit of a homer, Pete. My daughter goes to Baton Rouge as well. Love the Tigers. But just give me your thoughts about the situation, where we are, and just what unfolded over the past couple of seasons.
Gosh, where did I begin? It's unfortunately, it's kind of typical LSU, to be honest with you. I love LSU. I loved all those years I was able to work there, but dadgummit, just, about every 4 years we go through this. And as Terry knows, it's starting all over, Joe. That's the thing about it. It's, you end this and then whoever comes in there, it's a matter of starting all over. And especially today with the transfer portal, and you never know what you never know what you're gonna have left at the end of the season. I just hate it. The man was great to me. I know he didn't win enough games to keep him happy and whatever. I hate to. Looks like the athletic director has been taken out of the mix. and looks like the governor, and this is pretty typical Louisiana. I got a friend that wrote me today. He's an older gentleman. I don't know how I could call anybody older, but he said, this, it makes me think of what was the governor? Huey P. Long days. That's what he said. He said, makes me think of Huey P. Long days. But Kelly, the thing that probably I resent the most about it, I feel like they piling on him.
Yeah.
I hate that. And I've read things that I know, and I got a really close friend on the staff, and I've talked to him about. They've said things that are not true. About him not being at practice and him drinking wine in the office and him not being at practice some days, and all of that's not true. I just tell you, I hate it for him. But he's a good man, and I know he will. He'll be fine. And I think he wants to coach more. So I wish him the very best.
Pete, Joe and I were talking about this yesterday. It's all about winning games. If you win 2 more games, or you beat the teams, the last 2 games, you beat Texas A&M, you beat Ole Miss. They don't care what kind of guy you are.
Drank on the practice field.
It doesn't. That's the honest truth. And I said, I've nowhere. And you work with so many. You've been to so many different places. You work for me at Auburn and the NFL. But you're talking about different personalities. Nick Saban, you were with at LSU and Alabama. Ed Orgeron, and then Kelly. They're all different. But when you lose, it's always something I know when I was at Auburn. You remember when I was at Auburn when we lost, when we had a tough year, lost some centers, and after almost winning the SEC championship, I mean, I left for every reason but winning football games. It seemed like, and that's the truth. When they do this, it's unfortunate because they're doing the same thing to Brian Kelly. And I don't think anybody that knows him personally doesn't know he's a good guy who just didn't win. They pay you that much money. I think you're supposed to play for the championship, I guess,
Well, Terry, I had a wise person tell me years ago. He said, Pete, when big money comes in the front door, everything else goes out the back door. and I've learned over the years that there's a lot of truth in that. The expectation, when I started this, and let's say your dad, I didn't make anything. I mean, golly, my wife was an elementary school teacher. So we planned to be poor the rest of our lives. I just love coaching. I love kids. I love that occupation. She loved teaching, but we really and truly, we planned to be poor. Not that we're rich now, but Terry, they wasn't paying no money. Your dad didn't make no damn money.
Mm-mm.
And he just loved the game. He loved playing. Huh? What, Terry?
I said it's just unreal the salaries, Pete. What they're getting. Even position coaches, to your point, are making $2 and $3 million on some of these programs.
I was born too early.
Amen. Amen.
Too early. I could be making a pretty good salary now if I could if I could go back, which I can't. But it's unbelievable. But I think it raised the expectation level too. I heard Pat Summerall, the basketball coach at Tennessee, that was so great. I heard her say that she could remember the day when all of the people in the league were friends. All the coaches were friends. And once they went to the NCAA and got out of that, whatever that woman's league was, once they got out of that, the expectations got higher. And, and it made it so much more competitive. They couldn't really be friends.
Yeah.
And anymore, it was a business now. It wasn't it wasn't a good close friendship like it was before the money. But LSU is a tough place, Terry. They're all different. They all have their problems. None of them are without difficult problems and everything. But LSU's the expectation level there, and I'm gonna tell you, he didn't help himself in that respect. I kept reading this summer about him talking about the best roster he'd ever been around.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And I thought he put a target on his back. The people in Baton Rouge got enough expectation. You don't have to get them cranked up now. They're expecting you to win them all or be gone, So I hate it for him, though. I really do.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting knowing, I think you go all the way back to Arnsparger at LSU, but you were with Nick Saban at Alabama and at LSU. And I'm going to jump to a different subject because he probably fascinates people more than anybody. And I want to say this about Alabama. If you think LSU is tough, between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, they went through 7 coaches, and we coached against, some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
Gene Stallings wasn't bad.
No,
the 7 coaches either got fired or the pressure just made them want to leave. But what made Nick? What is it about Nick that? And I when I was in college, he was a defensive backfield coach, and we're both from West Virginia. But I've never worked with him. But he is a fascinating person because he's so successful wherever he goes. And I don't want to say he ruined it for everybody else, but it sure made it harder.
Yeah, I don't know, Terry. I think I'd start here. He is, first of all, he's very intelligent.
Right.
He's a smart guy, and he's smart about a lot of things. He has great insight into players. And then the next thing, I once said this to him. We were in the car together on a recruiting trip, and I said to him, I said, Coach, a lot of people say it's your football knowledge. A lot of people say it's your recruiting. A lot of people say it's your ability to pick out the players to recruit. I say to you, my belief is the strongest suit you have is your ability to communicate. And he didn't say anything. And then a few minutes later, he looked over and gave me that little smile of his.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, I think so too. But, Terry, I would sit and listen to him in the meeting room with the players.
Right.
And I'd look around and I would think, everybody in this room understands what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a universal communication ability. And I thought that was one of the great things, him being able to communicate his thoughts and everything to the players. Now, strategically, he knows a lot of football. I always told people, when there's 11 of our players out there, whether it be offense, defense, or special teams, he knows every assignment for every kid on that field, like the back of his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's intelligence, but it's also understanding the game. He's got a great understanding of the game. And he once told me this: you got to have a great plan, which he did. I thought his plan was great. He thinks about it. He thought about it day and night. So he always was ahead of everybody, I thought. And then the other thing he said, but you've also got to have a good gut and a good gut feeling. And I thought he possessed that too. Just like he's playing Clemson. You remember this. He's playing Clemson and hit him with a surprise onside kick. You remember that?
Yeah, sure do.
It turned the game. It probably sent the championship to Alabama rather than to Clemson. But his feel for the game, or think about this. Remember he took Jaden out of the game and put Tua in the game in the national championship, which at the moment I thought that ain't a good move. Mm-hmm. But Tua came in and threw the touchdown pass and beat Georgia in the championship. He just got a real feel for the game. And he's a smart guy, Terry, and he's the hardest worker I was ever around.
See, that's that one thing I knew. I remembered him as just being a hard worker, hard work.
He is a grinder, boy. He's a grinder now, I'm telling you. And you never outwork him. I never have felt like a day where I outworked him. His mind was on football. His mind was on the next step or 2 steps down the road or whatever. he just I don't know that he gets quite as much enjoyment out of life other than winning games and everything. But he's a special dude now. I tell you, I really I have great admiration for him.
Yeah.
Pete, I want to ask because another coach that's hot on everybody's trail now is lighting it up in Oxford, and that's Lane Kiffin. And you had the opportunity back in 2013 when Kiffin got fired to join Eddie O and USC. So, one, talk to me a little bit about that experience. Obviously, Ed O goes on to win a national championship with LSU in 2019, and then that really allowed Lane Kiffin to, I guess, evolve into the coach that he is now, and one of the hottest coaches where potentially, if you ask, I think, half of the fan base, they would say, let's try and get Lane Kiffin at all costs in Baton Rouge.
Or in Gainesville, or
that's right.
or in State College.
Yeah.
I think right now Lane could name his job or
Yeah.
whatever, and he's earned that. He's done a great job. We were not we were not enemies, but we weren't great friends on the personal level. But I want to tell you, I've always had great admiration for him, especially during the game.
Yeah.
He's a really, really good play caller.
Yeah.
In 2016, we played Alabama in Tiger Stadium, and there was 58 minutes and change before anybody scored a touchdown. Okay, and Dave Aranda was our coordinator on defense. Boy, a smart guy. Dave is really a smart football coach, but that game with Kiffin calling offensive plays for Alabama and Dave, I tell you honestly, Kiffin would hit us with a right hand and Dave would throw a left, and it was just unbelievable. It was really, and I'm sure the fans would have.
We get through and lose him maybe.
We might have lost him.
We had to try to. Jaden pulled the ball down, Terry. He had a sprint out right, a dash right. We were in man under, and Jaden pulled it down like he does it on TV on Sunday, and scored on us. But it was a great game. But boy, Kiffin called a heck of a ball game. It was a work of art. He and Dave calling defenses and offense in that ball game.
That's awesome.
You said something, Coach Pete, that I've always felt that the play caller, or you got to be able to have a great visceral feeling for call, not just a cerebral. Because I mean, I think Lane Kiffin is cerebral too, just like O'Dick. But you got to have that gut feel of when to make a call, and that's all visceral. That's all down in the gut. When you know it's the right thing to do at the right time. It doesn't come from having seen too much video. It's at the right moment you got the guts to call it.
And I think he's gotten better as time is going on. And I just watch him play now. I don't think he's quite into the analytics as much as he was at one time. Yeah. I know he's still into it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the gut sometimes is stronger than the analytics, to be honest with you.
I do too.
Absolutely. Convinced. I'm with you. Trust me. Gut and feel sometimes goes a lot further than statistics and analytics, especially in big games. If you have a gut feeling, you go with that first opportunity. It's what we talk about in trading as well. It's similar. Whenever you have that first gut intuition, you go with it. And I think baseball, too, is another sport where your gut does, for the most part, work out. They all are believing in analytics. Pete, I do want to ask you, you've coached over 20 years at LSU. What was the best defensive player that you coached? I mean, you could go back.
Some good ones.
Glenn Dorsey. I mean, the list goes on. And I love those linebackers, but you did D-line, so talk to me.
The reason I'm laughing is this. I get asked that quite a bit.
Right.
Really quite a bit. And my answer is always what you're about to get. I would never tell you what I felt. There was so many of them that were so good. And, they were, as I look at them, they were kind of like teams, Terry. Every team's different. And I had guys that featured certain things. I had guys that that wasn't quite as good at that, but they were better than somewhere. But I tell you, I really consider myself blessed that I had the young men to work with that I have been privileged to work with. And I would never say who was the best, because like I said, I get asked that a lot, and they get the same answer, Joe, every time they ask that question.
I love it.
You know what? I'm going to say this. I was at the Auburn-Georgia game, and I was on the field before the game, and I saw somebody that I really pretty sure he wasn't your best, but maybe one you loved as much as anybody, Jimmy Brumbaugh at Auburn. What a great guy he was, and I think gave everything he got.
Everything. He gave it all.
A very good college player.
He gave it all to us, Terry. He gave everything he had to us. You know, he was somewhat limited physically and everything. Right. But boy, heart-wise, Jimmy gave us everything he had.
Unbelievable.
And made a lot of plays for us. Mm-hmm. And he made them on understanding the game and effort. And I have a lot of respect for the way Jimmy played for us. And his heart was in the program, you know?
Yes, it was.
That's awesome. Pete, we'd love to have you on throughout the year. If you want to come on again, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I only had about 20 more questions, but we'll let it go at that, my friend.
Okay, my friend.
Awesome stuff.
It's good.
All right, Pete.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you, Pete.
The great Pete Jenkins. What an interview. I tell you, he is great, Terry. Just breaking down everything that, as it relates to Lane and Nick, and you just talk about the talent that he has had and coached. He coached at Mississippi State back in Jackie
I hired him from Mississippi State to work for me. And the thing that if you ask almost any coach in the last 25, 30 years, who the number one defensive line coach in college football is, it's Pete Jenkins. And a lot of those schools he worked for, he was retired. And they would hire him for a week or two to come in and train their defensive coach and their defensive lineman like a camp. And he would do that. Nick Saban had him come every year, Kirby Smart every year. And that's kind of what he's been doing, because he's 84, I believe, and still hadn't retired yet.
Absolutely. I can tell you this, whoever the head coach is of LSU, they need to get back to that physicality.
That's right.
Again, mobile quarterbacks kill them. We've talked about it in back-to-back years now. Change the scheme, get different play. I don't know what you have to do, but in order to win in today's SEC, you cannot allow a mobile quarterback to not once a coach. Last year, Jalen Milroe rushed for $150 on them.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot go into these marquee games knowing that you're going to have to defend a mobile quarterback, and it's not even now just the creme de la creme. It's not just Alabama and Florida and Auburn and Texas. I'm just throwing out teams. It's now the Vanderbilts and the Miss States that are recruiting at an elite level as well, and you know that they need speed. So look at Diego Pavia, abuse them in that game. If they win that game, honestly, I think there's an outside shot. Brian Kelly's still the coach entering Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back before they even got to this last game against Texas A&M, because we all have this problem in the SEC. Those of us who coached there over the years, we have this picture of Vanderbilt that we can't get out of our mind. Great academic school, can't get the good football players into school. And now with NIL there, and the ability to get people to come in who've already got, it's easier to get a guy to transfer into a good academic school than to come in out of high school, the way the academics are set up. And they have done a great job, but it's so hard. And the fans at LSU, they're in the same boat. They don't think of Mississippi State the same thing they think of Alabama. They don't think of Vanderbilt as we all think of what they were, and that's why they're 7-1 for the first time since 1941.
Absolutely.
They haven't had that. And now it's the future, and I'm sure that's one thing we'll ask Pete next time. What is the future? Because the future with NILs and portal transfer, the game is changing. Because I'll be honest with you, and I know week to week we can't tell there's not a clear favorite hardly at all anymore.
Not at all. You're right. about that 100%. I think the last success, obviously, for Vanderbilt prior to Derek Mason was obviously James Franklin.
Right.
Took them back to back 9-4 campaigns, 2 bowl wins, had Jordan Rogers, Zach Stacy, you name it. You know, Jordan Matthews at the wide receiver position. Jay Cutler was there for a while. I mean, that was the pinnacle prior to the success that we're seeing now.
That was about as high as you thought they would go. 8 or 9 wins, get to a bowl. Right now, we're talking about
college football playoff.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Top 12 teams in America, and Duke's not that far behind. You know, in what they're doing in the ACC.
And I'll just end it at this. It's not just when you're an LSU and you're a Florida and you're and you see Vanderbilt, the doormat for years in the conference. You see Indiana, the doormat or at the bottom of the level making the college. You see SMU and Boise State, and you see all of these other teams that didn't have the brand recognition that you once had. That is a slap in your face, and that's why you're seeing them all pull the trigger for these coaches, right? Even Penn State included. Virginia Tech, hey, that used to be us with Beamer. We used to be right there. We're not there anymore. And it's really going to be interesting to see over the next few weeks how this all pans out because, again, we could talk for 5 hours on coaches moving forward. So, again, let's dive into the ACC. We'll talk about the big matchups. Miami and SMU. So what I find interesting is this game in the offseason was basically SMU a favorite in this game by 2.5 points because of their dominance at home. They come out, they lose to Baylor. They obviously had the disappointing road loss to Wake Forest. You and I had both said in the breakdown, this Wake Forest team is playing much better with Dickert than they were at the start of the year. They have competent quarterback play, defense. This could potentially be a trap game for Miami if they start slow. I like SMU plus the 12.5 points. Simply for the fact of this is their Super Bowl. They beat Clemson. You get slapped around by Wake Forest. I understand it's Miami, but I'm willing to take a shot. They don't have to win it, Coach, but they can keep it close within the number.
I like SMU and the points as well, although I think Miami will win the game. I think Miami has found themselves. I think their loss to Louisville was a bit of an anomaly in the way the game started, in the way that Jeff Brom kind of threw some new stuff at them for 14 points, then got 10 points the rest of the game, and then the interceptions that a veteran like Carson Beck threw. But this is a big game. SMU had a terrible game last week. It wasn't just that Wake Forest is better, but it was not a very good football game played for them. But their worst output this season that they had in that game, and they're back at home, and they have a great home winning record. So this is going to be a tough one. Miami cannot overlook SMU in this game because Miami, I think people still wonder, is Miami going to fold like last year late in the season? I think it's a different team. I think it's a different defense. But I think I would take the points, and I would take SMU on this game.
Something to just keep in mind, and I just want to throw it out there just so people know. Last year, Miami went on the road to Louisville. They laid 4.5 points. They only won it by 7. That was with Cam Ward. They went on the road to Syracuse and lost. They went on the road to Georgia Tech and lost. They went in the bowl game. I don't count the bowl game, but still, it was a neutral roads environment. They lost. They really haven't had a legitimate road environment where they've had a team that's in the top 25 that you could say, okay, this is a legitimate shot. So I just want to put it out there. SMU is a very good home team, and we'll see. You're going to get their best shot. And Carson Beck last year on-road performances, not good for Georgia. So we'll see. Keep that in mind as this game plays out. We talked about Clemson earlier. I want to go back to it. Clemson now only 2.5-point home favorites over Duke. To me, Duke has the quarterback advantage, Mensa over Klubnik or Vizina. I don't care who starts. I do give the defensive edge still. I'll give them, because they're at home, to Clemson. But is this team from a mentality factor going to be checked in or checked out with the extra week? Do you feel it benefits them, or you would much rather, after a loss to SMU, get right back on the horse?
No, I think they needed the injury-wise. They've banged up more than just quarterback. And Kay Klubnik may not be able to go, but if he does, it'll only be because of the off week. And And then I think the whole experience this year is a very humbling experience for any coach, including Dabo. And he comes right out and says, "Man, people, we got to run. If we got to run the ball better as a football team in a sincere way. Say, you know what, we lost our vision. We lost our vision." And I think he sees that. And when you play at home, and again, I think with the talent they do have, I don't care if Klubnik's healthy. I'm kind of with you. Menza at Duke may be the better quarterback. I mean, and probably is. But I think overall talent, I know, and I'll say this, Duke probably plays better defense. Statistically, for sure they do. But I do believe that Clemson, with that week off, getting people well, and Dabo, I think Dabo sees this as his mission in life is now to get this program back in the right direction. It's not to go somewhere else. It's to get the program in the right direction.
I like Clemson just for and I'll tell you this, from the gambling and betting aspect, I don't want Klubnik to play. I don't want. I'd rather Vizina come in because again, I'd have more confidence with Clemson in a backup than I would with and it sounds crazy because again, I just feel like the backup is going to give you a spark. Right? Like Klubnik's got pressure. He's got his draft status. He's got everything. You're talking about him and Nussmeier were right there with Arch Manning at the start of the year as the front runners for the Heisman coach. They're off. All three of them are off the grid. Yeah. Well, think about how crazy is that? But to your point, Duke only giving up 3.5 rushing yards per carry, 130 rushing yards per game. Very physical, defensive-minded coach. This can make Manny Diaz as well. He hasn't been really talked about as with Penn State and all this stuff. It's some other guys being mentioned. This could get him back on the radar, but I'll go with Clemson just by default, and I hope it's more Vizina than it is Klubnik.
That'll be interesting, and we must remember because I'm with you. I'm going with Clemson on this. It's a 2.5. I think is the number right now. And to me, when I think of a field goal, just to win it by a field goal, whether it's a walk-off or that much.
Coach, they lose this game. I mean, they'd have 4 home losses this year.
I mean, we're already into a reevaluation of everything we do. They're already into that. They put too much money, time, effort, facilities, salaries in everything they have done. They're already into that. We have to reevaluate. Look, they're already into that phase. So if they do it, they're just going to go a little bit further where they've been heading. If they can get this thing and turn it around, it'll be different. But you're right. If they lose this one, it becomes a deeper hole to dig yourself out of. Even if you do believe they're going to dig themselves out, and I have that much confidence in Dabo down the road, it's a deeper hole you got to dig out of.
Absolutely. So here's another game, and I just want to bring this up from the gambling aspect. I know coaches don't think about this, but anytime these CW games get televised, they become wild. Okay, I can tell you Baylor and TCU was a wild one. Baylor went down, and that game was crazy when you think about it. It was Wake Forest, Virginia Tech not too long ago. I think USF, Florida was a CW game. These CW games are nuts. The only reason why I say that, Coach, is because now we have Louisville laying 10.5 on the road to Philip Montgomery and Virginia Tech. Now, I don't know if you saw the uniforms. I'm big on uniforms, too.
Yeah.
If I know a team is wearing, like, these crazy, great uniforms.
Like Miami wore last week.
I didn't like those.
I didn't like those either.
So I'm talking like if Texas Tech comes out with the red helmets and the black, something crazy. Like when Oklahoma State wears, I'll tell you, when Oklahoma State wears the orange helmet with the black jersey and the orange pant, I'd bet them no matter what. I don't care what the spread is. But these CW games are nuts. Well, Virginia Tech is wearing these maroon helmets with it says Hokies in script, and it's in gold, Coach. I love that. But this team now needs, I think, 3 more wins to become bowl eligible with Montgomery. They got the victory over Cal as a 4.5-point favorite in double overtime. Louisville needs the game to stay alive. They might win, but this is a 3 o'clock. Give me the Hokies. I like Kyron Drones. I think they're going to step up and surprise some people.
I like the number. I like the point. 10 and, are we 10.5 now still
Yeah.
on that game? Yeah, I
10 and a
kind of
half.
like Virginia Tech. I'm going with the dog, but I'm doing because of the numbers and I'm feeling like Virginia Tech had one of their best rushing games of the year last. They had 2 rushers over 100 yards in their last football game, and they're averaging 231 yards in their 4 games against ACC opponents, and so they're average 100. I think it's 167 in all their games this year rushing the football. So when you can do that, and you've got a dual threat quarterback, and they're paying with bank money. There's no reason to be edge on edge or any of those things. And we got to remember they're playing at home. If they're playing at night, I might go a little bit further than I'm going, but I'll take Virginia Tech and the points against Louisville. And Louisville needs this win.
I do want to bring up the other games in the ACC, and we'll get. I just want to bring up one point. So you and I had talked about Pitt and Stanford earlier,
right,
and the other one is Virginia and Cal. What I want to know more from you is both of those games, Coach, are not late night. They're in the daytime. Yeah. So you have Pitt on the road in Stanford. It's a 3:30 kick, and you have Virginia on the road in Berkeley. It's like a 3:45 kick. Advantage East Coast teams and Atlantic Coast.
Gotta be. Now, I've only coached so many games because we didn't play that many coast to coast games 20 years ago. But a 3:30 game from the East Coast it's a normal night game. It's nothing. Right. It's that 9 o'clock game out there that throws you into 1 or 2 o'clock at night when you're traveling across the Rockies to play those games. So I think it's definitely to the advantage of the East Coast team to play that game in the mid-afternoon because of the fact that it's nothing unusual for those players. They can get their sleep. They can do those things. It'll be no different than a East Coast night game. And so to me, that would be one of those things. So you know what? I'm going to check mark that one right there for Virginia. Check mark that one for them because that's something that I worry about as a football coach, taking my team that far away and playing at an odd time. The body chemistry, when you get up for a game and all those things worry me.
Yeah, so that's why I like Pittsburgh. I'm not going to get in the way of Pittsburgh just yet. Pittsburgh has won 4 straight. We talked about Mason Heinsteichel and this team. They dominate yet again. NC State as a 5.5-point favorite. The average margin of victory, Coach, has been, dominating. When you just look at how he's been able to just think about this, 48-7 over BC. They win a close one against Florida State, 34-31, but they were 10.5-point dogs. And that was in Tallahassee. They abused Ricky Collins in Syracuse, 30-13, and 53-34 over NC State. So they have he has been as good of an addition to that offense, Coach, as anybody has been. They are really dominant. Their last 4 wins have been by 20 points per game. I know it's Stanford, but I'm still going to roll the dice. They do have Notre Dame on deck, but I'm rolling with Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, I think I'm going that way too, only because Stanford now is 3-0 at home and 0-5 on the road, and so they have played better at home. But still, I think there's something more to Pittsburgh than last year when they were 7-0 and fell off the map. I think they had a much better team this year, and when the quarterback wasn't playing well, they got an even better one playing. So it wasn't just the quarterback. It was the quarterback on top of the fact that they're a pretty good football team because, like I say, they are putting things together, played very well, and the confidence factor with them is really high right now. So Stanford has been a hot and cold team. I think they've got an interim coach. They're still in the hunt for a bowl game of six wins, but I do think that Pitt's going to go in there right now. Pitt's still 4-1 in the conference games. They're still in the running for a conference championship game, sitting at 6-2. So Pitt's got everything to play for. I won't say, even though we know they've got 3 top 10 teams after this game, it has all the look of a trap game. This game's way too important for Pitt for them to let this one slide and mess them up.
I agree. And if you want to take a shot at Pittsburgh and make the college football playoff, obviously I don't 100% buy in, but the value is there because they play Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami in 3 straight weeks. If they win all 3, including the Stanford game, Coach.
Right.
They are potentially going to be an ACC championship game, and their number to make the playoff right now is 16-1.
Yeah.
They're an 18-1 shot to win the ACC. Not bad value. I suggest if you buy into the success, take the shot, gamble at your own risk, but the value is there for the ACC championship and the college football playoff. Last game in the conference, I'm going to ask you. And I'm not bringing up Georgia Tech, NC State, unless you have an opinion. I sort of like NC State with the points, but this is a game that Georgia Tech should roll. I'm more concerned, and I want to get your take. Florida State laying 10.5 coming out of a bye week to Wake Forest, who just beat SMU. Coach, not 3.5, not 4.5, 10.5 point favorite. Is this basically the books saying, hey, Mike, they gave you the vote of confidence. We want you out this week.
Yeah.
I mean, now Wake Forest has been owned by Florida State. It wasn't until Dave Clawson went in there. What year was that? 3 years ago or 4 years ago with Taggart that they lost with Sam Hartman? I mean, you tell me, Coach. Should they be 10.5 point favorites over anybody right now?
No, I lean to Wake Forest on this one because the way a new coach is doing a great job at Wake Forest. They're playing with a little bit of juice, with a little bit of changed attitude, and that was a huge win for them last week, 13-12 against SMU. That was huge. And so, who's to say playing Florida State is going to be tougher than playing SMU? And so, to me, that's a lot of points. And I like the way Wake Forest has been playing. I like the new coach and what he's done. Florida State, I think at home should get the win. But I just think, God, the points are getting up there. It's getting to the point where you'd have to take Wake Forest.
Coach, I'm shell-shocked from last year. Every time Florida State lost a game, I doubled down. It was almost like the martingale system, where I took them against SMU. I said, there's no way they're going to go on the road. Coach, they got punched in the mouth and never responded. I said, okay, I learned my lesson. They played Miami, smashed every game. I can't do it. My gut, gut, we talk gut, not in this case because money's on the line. I cannot bet Florida, but my gut is telling me Florida State probably win this game by 14 points.
I can't go there. I mean, I'm kind of like you. My family. We've been Florida State forever.
I'm shell shocked.
I mean, I think they could get a win, but to get them back to where it was, I still think when you talk of Wake Forest and Florida State, you're thinking Vandy SEC. You're thinking two different levels of football, and I thought that doesn't exist right now. And what concerns you about Florida State is that last year, when it started to go south, when it was a quarterback problem, it became an entire team problem. And once it got to be a team problem, it was an attitude problem, and they didn't play hard. And that's what, as I've watched them this year, there was a point where they had a tough loss to Virginia, and everybody said, "Oh no!" But the next one they played worse. Then they played worse, and so I don't know. They're going to have to show me they can come over that they believe in their coach, that they believe in what they're doing, because you hear those rumors out there. The players are kind of behind the scenes, snickering at some of the post-game talk, snickering at some of the halftime comments. And, if you don't win, they don't buy in very good to all the motivational talk that you do. And I'm afraid that's what happened last year. And there's a worry and concern in Tallahassee. That's what's happening this year.
I'll just say my gut's telling me Florida State. I am not betting it. Take that breakdown. But the line is just telling, and people are betting it because the line went from 7.5 to 10.5. So we'll see. All right, SEC, the big games that matter. Texas and Vanderbilt. Now, I bet this game last year, and I wanted to knock out Sark. He has a 14-0 first half lead. He gets the football back with a minute left at midfield, right? He decides to play for the field goal. Quinn Ewers is throwing the football all over the yard against Vanderbilt, and he decides to run, and then on a 3rd and 17, Ewers gets sacked, and we gave this team house money in the second half. They almost lost the game outright. They won 27-24. They were 21-point road favorites in that game. We don't know about Arch, right? Back-to-back games where Texas wins in overtime. They don't cover. Vanderbilt comes here. Here's Diego Pavia. All right, you tell. Coach, another game. I can't bet this game, but if I had to, it would be burnt orange. Is Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt going to go in to Jack Royal? Jack Royal Stadium, Royal Darrell
Yeah, Royal. There we go.
I'm thinking baseball. Darrell Royal Field and knock this team out. I mean, come on. Are we serious now?
I'm picking them. I'm riding them. I mean, first of all, we don't know if Arch is going to play. My thoughts are concussion protocol. Somebody with the last name Manning, you're not going to take a chance on a head injury there. Even if he does play, we know that Pavia is going to play. What we don't know is how well Texas is going to play. They've won their last two games, and they played poorly. Vandy has found a way to win against some very good football teams the last couple of games, and it's all about Pavia. And to me, I would just have to say Pavia plays for Vanderbilt, and if it's that 2.5-point game, that 3-point game, I believe he's going to, like I said this I think every week, he's going to hold on to the ball, one more first down, and the other team doesn't get ahead, or he's going to drive it for one last field goal because that's what he does. That's what he does, and he has complete confidence. So I didn't bet like this. I stayed off of it, but I'm saying, who am I kidding myself? They are playing. I mean, Missouri's a great team, and they came back and hung on to the very end, and the way they played LSU. But anyway, I'm going. Even in Austin, Texas, I think that I don't think Arch will play but I don't have the final answer there. I don't think he'll play, and I think Vandy keeps a special year going.
Well, we'll see. So a couple of things. Matthew Caldwell, if Arch can't go, he's the backup. Now, when you just look at Caldwell, comes by the way of the Sun Belt from Troy. So he's a veteran. He's a senior. If they don't go that route, it's going to be a freshman. You can't go with the freshman in this type of situation.
No.
I will say, just looking at the scheme with Missouri against Vanderbilt last week, I thought the rushing attack with Ahmad Hardy got going. He had 97 yards on the ground. The mobile quarterback, I think, could be a factor. That's why you would hope that Arch plays because of the RPO game, right? If Caldwell hasn't run all year, he's got one carry, 14 yards. Yeah. I mean, that ain't going to – 2 carries, 64 yards. I guess he busted a 50-yard run against Sam Houston State. If that's the case – you got to use the RPO because Perbula was utilizing that a little bit to open up the rushing attack. They're going to have to do that. I will say in the fourth quarter and in overtime, I saw that dominant front seven rear their and pin their ears back for Texas, shut down Blake Shapen. That offense couldn't do anything in the overtime. If that continues, I think it'll be a long day. I'm not betting this game, but I lean to Texas in this matchup, Coach.
Yep. Well, I told you I'm going the other way. Because
all right.
I like that quarterback.
All right, there we go. The other big game, the cocktail party, and we still call it that here on the show. It's always been known as the largest cocktail party. Yep. Georgia has won 4 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 21.5 points per game. They won this last year, 34-20. I understand it's an extra week of prep. I understand that Georgia hasn't looked like the same defense that we've seen or come to know under Kirby Smart. But what I do know is they have offense. You want to run it, they could run it. They're averaging $190 on the ground. They put up 221 against Ole Miss. And they also have a gunslinger where if you push him and put his back to the wall, he could respond now. Saw it in 3 games. We saw it against Ole Miss. We saw it against Auburn in the fourth quarter. And we certainly saw it against Tennessee. That's enough for me. I think Georgia puts a beat down on Florida. It's one of my better picks for the weekend. Double-digit win. And I think the extra week of prep will actually benefit the staff that's intact and a staff looking for an SEC championship and more importantly, a national championship. I think that extra week will buckle up that defense. I think they're in for a long day in the cocktail party.
I don't know if it's bad luck. You and I are agreeing on almost every one of these games tonight. But I'm with you. Now, when I say Georgia's defense is not your typical Kirby Smart defense.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they aren't. But that's a number 1 defense we're talking. That's a defense that's the best in America. They're not the best defense in America, but they seem to be good enough to do what you got to do talent-wise. They just don't put the pressure on the quarterback, and they don't. It's a little more of a catch and give a little bit, give and take, but don't break type of defense. And again, when your offense is scoring like that, the other teams got the foot on the pedal too. And so Kirby Smart likes a 23-16 win, a 23-10 win. He likes that. He likes to win games. He doesn't have to blow somebody out. It doesn't mean a lot to him to have all the numbers, but he's shown he can do that. And with the defense being a good defense, just not a great defense. But I've got them. I don't think Florida's got anything left, to be honest with you. The new coach, the new situation may bring some juice.
Gonzalez.
But Georgia is hungry to be back in the thick of it, and everybody's talking about Alabama, and Kirby's tired of that.
Yeah, I think he is. And here's the other. I'll just put a cherry on top.
Yeah,
you're right about the defense. Statistically, in run support, they're there. 90 yards allowed per game, 3 yards per carry. That's a typical Kirby Smart front seven.
Right.
The sacks is where you're a little concerned.
Right.
Only 8 sacks through 8 games. Obviously, you want to see much more productivity, especially as you get into these college football playoff environments.
Right.
But I will say this. We've seen now 3 games where the defense, maybe not statistically, but they had to make a stop against Tennessee.
Right.
They made a stop. They had to make a stop against Auburn. They found a way to get the football back. The last drive with Trinidad Chambliss in Athens 2 weeks ago, they get off the field.
3 and out 2 times, I think it was 3 or 4 and out.
So that is the one, when you say mentality, when they need to make a play defensively, they've shown an ability to do that now in 3 critical matchups. All right, so we're both in agreement on Georgia. That's okay. How about this one? Because I am curious to see your take. South Carolina and Ole Miss. Ole Miss blew them out last year in Williams-Brice. And I know this offense is humming right now. I don't want to say it's a letdown spot, but I feel if Sellers is dialed in, and I think that's the only question that I have. Is he dialed in? He was dialed in last week against Bama. They lost that game. Terrible play calling in the fourth quarter. They had them dead to rights. But he throws for 200. He rushes for over 40. And he gets a touchdown on the ground. You give me that, I think they can hang with Ole Miss.
No, I think they can too. But I just, after such a disappointing loss last week, I don't know if they can pull that up again. It starts to wear on you. That's a tough place to play, and I think only because of the numbers do I want to pick the spread and South Carolina because I think Ole Miss is kind of like. I've got Ole Miss kind of one of those years. They're going to find a way to win right now. And I think they're going to find a way to win the game. But I'm leaning towards South Carolina in those points just because they are a hard team to beat where they are. They should have won the game last week. And now I think the head coach, I think Shane Beamer's got some experience enough to get his team ready to play.
Well, we'll see. Here's one I think we're going to disagree on. So this is good. Late night. Not late night. Well, 7:30, the old Ron Franklin, Mike Godfrey hour.
Yeah.
You remember? I tell you, Ron Franklin back 1996 with Tennessee and Georgia. My guy, Robert Edwards, 5'10", he's loose. You played against Edwards. I know. Guy's unbelievable. It was a D-back that he changed positions. He went from corner to running back, and Joe Lee Dunn moved him. How about that? So we'll see. Here's the thing. I know Oklahoma's defense didn't step up last week. Right. I know Tennessee plays great tempo and they run the football. I'm not so sure that Tennessee's defense is as good as it was last year.
Yeah.
And I think Mateer will bounce back in a big way, and I expect Venables to bounce back with a good game plan. I think it's an under. My 2 best picks for the weekend, believe it or not, Georgia and Oklahoma. I really like Oklahoma. I think they win the game outright. It's an elimination battle. I just believe Oklahoma can maybe muscle them a little bit more. They lost this game last year. They didn't have good quarterback play with Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins. But I do feel their defense is good enough to keep them in it.
I don't know if you do this. I think they'll upset them and win too. I think it's Oklahoma. I disagree with you. I'm taking the over. I just think Tennessee gave up 5 touchdown passes to Kentucky last week. They gave up 34 points. They haven't held any FBS team to under 24. And if Mateer is healthy and he's playing like he was, he's gonna score some points against Tennessee. And I think Tennessee is going to be able to do enough against Oklahoma to keep the points over the, is it 57.5?
Yeah.
But I'm taking Oklahoma to upset Oklahoma and to beat them outright. But I'm going to take the over. I think it's going to be more of a scoring match.
All right, so Kentucky and Auburn. I know you watched Auburn.
Yeah.
I told you Auburn would rebound just because of how much of a gauntlet Arkansas expended, and they had a 21-10 lead. I tell you what, I blinked. I was up 10-0 with Auburn.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, good, they're playing." I did something. I grabbed a quick lunch, and I couldn't. I didn't have my phone. I look. It was 21-10. I go, how did that? I counted it as a loser.
Yeah.
What happened? The pick six, but the defense kept them in it. They made adjustments. Ashton Daniels came in. Cobb had a pretty good day on the ground, and Coleman and Singleton stepped up. They should smash Kentucky by principle.
Right.
But I can't buy into this Auburn offense just yet.
Well, you know why? Let me tell you, they had to kick 6 field goals. They had to. They couldn't score once they get the running was better. Jeremiah Cobb had 147, I believe he had, but it was between the 20s. When they got down to the scoring test, they had to kick 6. They made 6 field goals, and I don't think I've ever had a kicker kick 6 in a game in my whole career. And so that's what scares me about the points. I do think Auburn could win. I just don't see 10.5. I don't see it.
They should smash them, but
they should, but they're not scoring points.
Yeah.
And they, like I say, with the very fact that they have red zone problems of putting the ball in, and that goes back to even when you have you can get a lot of yard. If a back hits a 70-yard run or a 60-yard run, that total gets up. But if you get down to the red zone and you're not scoring, that means your tough physical running game's not there.
All right, so we got 4 more games to cover.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go to the Big Ten, Indiana and Maryland. I guarantee you we're going to disagree here, and I love it. Okay?
Yep.
Maryland was 4-0. They've lost 3 straight games by a total of 10 points or 3.3 points per game. They are one of the best turnover margins in all of the country at plus 11. And here comes your guy, Kurt Signetti, with the Billy Club. He wants to play bully ball.
Right. He's going to try.
He's going to try. Now, here's the thing. This line opened up at 17.5. They bet it up now over 3 touchdowns. I'm taking the 3 touchdowns. They don't have to win, Maryland. Just keep this game close. Do not get blown out. I think they could do it. The kid Washington, the freshman, Malik Washington. He's good. You take the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to see a lot of dink and dunks. I want to sustain drives. I actually think that front 7 is very physical. They got a lot of freshmen and redshirt guys on there. I think they could play athletically with Indiana. I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is a 7-point game heading with about 5 minutes left, but I hope it's only about 14 or 15 where they're hanging within the number. That's all I could ask for. I'm taking the points with Maryland.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm taking Indiana, and I'm taking Indiana to cover. Only because they are such a complete team. I mean, defensively, no team in the Big Ten has scored more than 13 points against them with their offense. Nobody, and even when they're bad, they're going to score 25, 30 points. And so you're starting to get up over that 21.5 number. Anyway, I just think he doesn't – if he can put it on, he's going to put it on. And if the way his defense is playing, not counting how his offense is playing, they run the ball well, they pass the ball well. Their defense, statistically, defensively, they're a top 10 in the country in almost every category as well. And so I don't see Maryland being able to score many points. So I don't think it's going to take a lot of points on offense for Indiana to win it by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at another one. Penn State and Ohio State in the conference. Penn State has dominated the series for the most part. They've won now. You just look, I think it's 9 of the last 10. They have covered the last 2 in the series. They were actually laying I think they were catching points last year. I got to double check that, but they've covered 2 straight in the series against Penn State. They are the most complete team, at least right now, heading in, especially from a defensive perspective. You just look at the dominance. Again, I don't know what to expect with Penn State going into this environment. It might be close for a half. In the end, I think Penn State gets absolutely smashed in this game. My heart would always say take the points with Penn State, with Jim Knowles, but this defense has not looked good. I think it's all Ohio State or nothing.
Yeah, and I'm with you. At Ohio State, there's just not that there are not any weaknesses. Offensively, they've got a quarterback throwing 80% completion percentage. They run the football. They've got two dynamic receivers that can score explosive plays, and their defense is outstanding. And they give up what number one 5 point something points a game. They're doing incredible on defense. Nobody can score. So unless something goes wrong, they just don't seem to have any weaknesses right now. Penn State, I'm just not buying again that they can keep this game close. I'm not sure what you'll get out of Penn State, but I got 3 touchdowns easy. Ohio State in this game.
Now, I will say, spread-wise, it's the highest total spread Ohio State has laid since 2019. That game, they didn't cover. It was the game after Penn State lost the 8 overtime loss to Illinois at home. They did cover with a monumental effort. Jahan Dotson and Sean Clifford stepped up. They lost that game 28-17 as a 20.5-point underdog in Columbus. We'll see. I don't think this time. I just think that Ohio State is the superior team. Let's take a look. One more big game in the Big 12, Cincinnati and Utah, late night, Coach. I like this Cincinnati team. I like what Satterfield has. I know Dampierre a little bit banged up. I'm willing to take Cincinnati. They're catching 9.5 points in this game, Coach. I like Cincinnati.
I tell you, I don't know if we're looking at each other's notes, but I really like Cincinnati.
You really?
They lost the first game and they've won 7 or 8 straight ball games, and they're beating teams that you would never think they beat. And it goes back. I think I bet against them 3 or 4 weeks ago. What it was Texas Tech or somebody that I thought they said they can't beat this team, and they knocked them out, and they've just been playing so good. Utah, obviously a very good football team too, but I like Cincinnati. I'm going to take the points, and I think they can either beat Utah, but they can at least stay within 10. They giving them 10 points. Utah's giving them 10, and I just don't think they're going to get beat like that.
All right, so one more, Coach. You ready?
Yeah.
One more is USC and Nebraska. Now, this line is up to about 7 points. What do you think about this line? Because Matt Rule signs the extension to get an extra 2 years. It's ironic right before a big ball game that he needs to win to potentially at least keep his chances alive at a Big Ten championship. They're catching 7 points. I don't know if Nebraska's rushing attack and the front seven are as dominant as they were last year. My heart, again, is telling me lay it with USC in this matchup. I just think they have too much speed. I'm not betting this game, but I would lean to USC.
I'm leaning USC, definitely. I think just to hear Dana Holgorsen talk, he's a coordinator at Nebraska, saying they've got to control the clock, they've got to control the ball. That means he's scared they're going to outscore him. He's got to somehow keep the ball out of their hands. Dana comes from the old Mike Leach philosophy, but he does run the ball a little bit better. But he's talking about he's got to do everything he can to control the clock and control the ball. When he says that publicly, most times I see that team's trying to keep the score down and trying to keep them going. He's worried about the scoring potential of USC's offense, and he ought to be, because he can't control that. And I think they win this game by 6.5. I do. I'm going with USC.
All right, there's your picks for week number 10 for Coach Bowden. I'm Joe Lisi. We'll see you next week on We're Gonna Run It. Enjoy the weekend. Have a great time. And these games, Coach, we'll really know who's in the driver's seat.
That's right.
For a conference championship and the college football playoff this coming weekend. So we'll see you next week right here on We're Gonna Run It.
Thank you, man.